What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 63 of Sales Stories in Real Life. I'm your host, Alex Bruschi, and this is the show where professional salespeople share their stories about memorable buying experiences. Today, our guest almost has as good of hair as me. Mr. Saad Khan is in the building. He's the sales director at Aligned. He, in the past, has built out successful BDR teams at Vendor and Dooley. Today, he is speaking about signal-led sales playbooks. If you're in the market or thinking about DSRs, signal-led sales, hit up Saad, follow him on LinkedIn. Saad, welcome to the show, man. Very, very much overdue. I hear you had a pretty interesting buying experience that you were excited to share. What happened there? Before we get started, I want to introduce you to Lead Feeder. We all know the struggle of identifying website visitors and turning them into valuable leads. Imagine having the power to identify companies visiting your website, track their behavior in real time, and seamlessly integrate it all into your CRM. With customizable notifications, lead scoring, and GDPR compliance, Leadfeeder is changing the lead generation game. Head over to leadfeeder.com, LEADFEEDER.com for a demo today. Now, back to the conversation.
Yeah, pretty interesting. First of all, come on, come on. I think we're equally there with the hair. I just got a little offended by that. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. But no, I will just say this, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm glad we're doing it in this format. So excited. In terms of the best buying experience, um, I'll share with how it ended. I ended up hiring the person. That's how that buying experience went. I loved it so much that when I came to Aligned, they're like, yeah, we gotta get this guy on board. And the buying experience was actually when I was buying Apollo when I was at Dooley. And this is a couple years ago when Apollo was not as hot. The market was still all Zoom info, things like that. Um, but it was the kind of way it came together was very interesting, and this is the true story here. Um, Dooley was in a deal for deal with Zoom info, and we Zoom info was going to pay significantly more to buy Dooley for the entire org versus what we were going to pay to buy Zoom info. Um, it was progressing really well, and then kind of came the Zoom info was like, hey, you got to consider buying our suite. And we're like, I'm like, "Ugh, I'm not about that stuff. I'm really not for it. I think it muddies the water." And I also kind of inherited the Zoom info evaluation. So when I joined Dooley, we were kind of like a couple months in. Um, I think where things went wrong was brilliant company Zoom info, great products. I think this is when they had just bought Chorus and a couple of the products, and we went and decided to buy the entire suite. And I was still learning my work, my processes, how to be a good leader, how to manage process at that time. I was not part of the demos. I was not really deeply part of the evaluation. And I would never do that again. I don't know why I even did it at that time. We did it that way. But it was so much fun. We had so much fun doing all the things. There was like so much greenery around us. And I was like, I think we'll be fine. We'll make the right decision. I'm like, how? Like, we're doing everything right anyways. I think, um, not the right decision. uh, Unfortunately, for a lot of reasons. We bought the tools. The data was great. The sales engagement was not there. At that time, I didn't even realize that, Apollo had data, sales engagement, all that stuff. Also, I'm not trying to pitch Apollo here right now, even though I love it, but it is what it is. Um, Reps started using it, and some very basic features were just not there. For example, I was always a sales off person. Sales off used to have, you can see how many times somebody opened your email, and and you can create hot lead triggers and things like that for follow-up. Uh, Unfortunately, at that time, we were sold the idea that the product would have those things, but it wasn't. Um, and I basically decided to start looking into other products, and we stopped using Zoom Info. The business did not know that we had stopped using it. And then I found Apollo, that Apollo had good data, good engagement with PLG. So I got my reps secretly without telling the company to start using Apollo. And I kind of came up with the idea. I was like, if they start working off of it and it produces results and it starts working, then great. I can make a case for it. We can do something. Fortunately, around that time, thank God for my boss, Michelle Peach. She was my VP of sales at Dooley. She told me, she looks at if this is not working, make a case, let me know. Within 3 months, we churned Zoom Info. 3 months of buying. And then the conversation became, okay, what do we do next? And then my reps were this now we uh so my reps started using Apollo like let's say at the start of a quarter, and then we got introduced to their AE Byron Sierra Matos. Byron is an absolute legend. Uh, he understands RevOps. He's a very good guy to work with. Just understood, and he actually understood my situation as well. This is what Byron did. The reason why we bought Apollo, the reason why the experience was brilliant. He understood my situation. Uh, we had limited credits. He gave us unlimited credits. Then we were doing a pilot. We were trying it all by ourselves. He let us use the product for a full quarter for free, kept updating our credits. Then, as a company, we decided that maybe we'll just buy Apollo sales engagement and we'll keep ZoomInfo's data. Then, an internal conversation started running that, hey, marketing was in the start of the year about to buy Apollo to do marketing enrichment. So I was like, hold on. If we can make a full business org-wide case for this, something interesting could happen. That's exactly what happened. I went to my VP of marketing, who was actually my champion in my evaluation process of duly hiring me, and we just created a full case. Then he was like, Saad, you need to go talk to Jenna. Jenna Molby, shout out Jenna, MSU. Um, she, when we were hiring her, she was basically the lady that you're a Salesforce guy. She was known as the lady that wrote the book on Marketo and how to optimize Marketo. Like she was a wizard. And she told me, she looks at with Apollo, what we can do is all your reps, when they get leads and webinars, we can create buckets and we can auto enrich it. So your reps just have to live and breathe in Apollo. We can create all the lead buckets, enrich it, all that. So I was like, if this is possible, if we can do all this to solve just a business-wide problem, we
Right.
told Byron this. Byron was like, and I was like, Byron, unfortunately, this will require us to extend the evaluation more. He's like, no worries, you're not going anywhere. I can see how much your reps are loving it. You're loving it. Like, this is gonna happen. Extends the evaluation further out. I'm sure Apollo will not do it now, but can you imagine how much of like I was like I'm at a line now. We're talking about buying experiences all the time. That it's difficult to loop in stakeholders and get your buyers to trust you. And the question that I ask these days, have you ever bought a software before? Buying a software for business is stressful.
Right.
It's a maze. Your CEO or your VP will be like, hey, go evaluate this to buy this. 2 months after that, I've been told that. I'm like, hey, by the way, I've been evaluating. I think we're ready to go forward. Do you want to look at it? And then wait, why? Why are we doing this again? What can't we do this? And I'm like, wait, hold on. Didn't we already have this conversation? And now I have to go talk to other departments, re-educate them. And now I have to go tell the seller that I've been working with, my fellow co-seller, like, hey, I'm sorry, you can't commit this into your forecast. And now I'm sounding like an asshole to somebody who I told that, oh yeah, I know my business, I have control over. Buying is insanely difficult. And this man at that time just got the stressful situation I was in,
Yeah.
prolonged the evaluation, gave us free credits, just every single thing, got on every single call. And then he ended up buying Apollo. And then since then, every company I've been at, I bought Apollo. I made Vendor buy Apollo, evaluate Apollo. When Vendor was a sales off company, Align had it. And then when Align was hiring the AE, I was like, hey, there's a no-brainer here. So yeah, just and obviously I ended discovery and all that stuff, but this is not a conversation about that. He
Yeah.
truly understood that I was in a very messy situation. It's like I have to build the process, I have to get the results right now as well. We have to get something that the business can scale with. It's a very messy combination of things. He just got it.
That so love this story. It's really unique from a lot of other stories we have because most other stories it'll be like, oh, I bought a car from this guy and now I send myself and all his, my friends there. But this is like not only do I continue to buy Apollo, but like I hired the person who sold me Apollo in the first place. And you kind of alluded to it a couple times. Like the question that keeps coming into my head, and I'm sure a lot of people listening offer free trials, and it's like free trials can only go for so long. So like Byron was definitely walking a tightrope there, right? Like if you're an early stage startup, maybe you're a little bit more willing to extend and have grace. And maybe if you're a little bit more established, maybe there's some harder lines that are set. So we can get that context out of the way now.
Yeah.
What's like your opinion now as a sales director? Like, how do you kind of walk that line of like, hey, look, buying is stressful, right? Like we understand evaluations often take longer than we think. There's often twists and turns behind the scenes that extend
Mm.
things, but like, how do you both like extend that free trial and like give people understanding and give people grace, but not too much, right? To where it's like, okay, we're turning a 3 month evaluation into a 9 month evaluation, right? And then it ends in no decision. What's
Yeah.
your take there?
My take there is at some point you have to trust your seller's gut instinct. And if I want my managers to trust me, my bosses to trust me, I want my seller to trust me as well. Before we started before we started the recording, I was talking about the dichotomy of reactions. In that exact same way, this is something that I've just like really started believing. Sellers don't should not look at their quota achievement as like from company to company. I think you should look at it in a linear way. It's like your overall career trend
Yeah.
versus how much quota did I hit at this company versus the other company. I believe nobody signs a contract to do a bad job. I also believe every seller would put equally as same effort in deal A at X company as they would do at deal Y at B company, right? So I think a better thing to do is think of your sellers' confidence in their deals. And I think for sellers as well, the better thing to do is think about your quota success record in a career manner. Are you consistently up and to the right?
Right.
Right? Your quotas are so it could be so much. Come on, seasonality exists in sales. Like your early stage sellers don't want to hear that. Early leaders don't want to say that, but it's real. Seasonality exists. The whole idea of control your inputs, that's exactly that. You just need to keep doing what you're doing. And if that's happening, you're learning about people, you're learning about the market, and you're also learning when things are going to hit or not. So when I come across a seller that understands their business, that understands their career, and they look at it in a full scope, and when that seller tells me that, hey, I think this can happen, I'll be like, okay, what do you need support from me? How
I
much more
like
do
that
you
a
want to extend
lot.
it?
Yeah, yeah. I like that a lot because not only is it like a gut instinct, but like you mentioned, like Byron even had mentioned, like, hey, I see that your reps are in the tool and they're loving it, right? So like I think there's also another side to like we're not going to treat everyone in this situation the same, right?
Yeah,
Like to your
yeah,
point, like as much as we want to treat everyone and every customer the same, like it just
yeah,
can't happen because people buy differently, people use the tool differently, people
yeah.
are at different places in the buyer's journey. So like did Byron do anything during the process to kind of say like, hey, I noticed that folks are using the tools, but like here's some tips and tricks to use it better, right? Like, was there any maybe
Yeah.
like enablement attached to it, or what was his
Yes.
process like?
Yeah. So um there's a certain methodology you have to follow when you're selling a PLG product. Um, the PLG sale is relying on a lot of data analysis, and then you're basically reading the data to kind of be like, okay, this needs to happen here. AKA in Byron's situation, you can track for us, we can track on Looker how many times somebody creates a room and then how many sessions somebody does. And if they shared it, that means they're getting customer engagement.
Right,
Versus if somebody has only created rooms and had sessions but has not shared customer engagement, I don't need to go out to them because that means the product has not been seen by the customer, aka they haven't realized value.
right,
So for whatever it was for Apollo, Byron was reading the data and actively he was providing me the ongoing enablement. It was touch points to help me get the best out of my workflows and for my team to actually get the most out of it, keep our bookings going and things like that. So Byron was just like, hey, if I can if I can get this guy to continue to make money and ease his stress and just buy into me and my process, he will himself make this case internally. I say this all the time on my calls now as well. I'm like, look, I don't need to push you. If you think this is gonna work, you will take this to your leaders.
right.
I've like really stepped away from that. We're talking like it's not like the work hard to push. I've just like really stepped away from that. Like I need that. What can you have confidence in? Not pushing, not just touch points, but like if there's a system that's data backed, that's leaning into just psychology of how people operate, how they work. And what Byron did here is he understood not why I need Apollo, not that I need Apollo, but why it's just so pertinent for me. He knew the context of what was happening with Zoom Info because he did the discovery with me. He knew the context about that. I'm trying to get away from that, etc., etc. And he also knew he had no other option. So, if worst case scenario, this guy knew they weren't going to go anywhere else.
Right.
But obviously, there was more there.
This is something that I'm really passionate about, and this is why I'm not a big like sales tips and tricks guy, right? Because like every situation is different, right? Everybody buys differently, but like I think you said it best. Like, if somebody wants to buy something, they're going to find a way to figure out how to buy
Yeah,
it, right? Like,
yeah,
if you're spending all of your developmental effort, like figuring out how to make people who kind of want to buy, instead, like, get people who kind of want to buy and help them figure out why they need to buy, right? Like, instead of a
yeah,
little like tip or trick, like, that's where you need to get
yeah,
into the psychology, I feel like. And
yeah.
again, this is shout out to Nate Nasrallah. This is something he says all the time. Like, buyers close deals, not salespeople. And I feel like that is right down the middle of the plate for what we're talking about right
That's the entire thing that we're doing here. Align our entire product is literally so it's very similar to what Nate talks about. It's that Nate and I have like a lot of respect for one another in our work, and it's exactly that. Um, we focus on buyer enablement, champion enablement, exactly that. Your deals are being won and lost when you're not in the room. But also, what you said earlier is like have a reason, have the right reason to do it. I have a story here. And that is a core emphasis of signal-led sales is just go where there's a reason. Just go where there's a reason to go.
now. Yep.
Like there's you start looking in a way of signals, then your buyers are giving you a lot of signals to go after you, whether it's social post engagement, whether they're your former champions, whether they're looking at your competitor, that's a signal. Or whether they're on your company website, there's technology there that can help you de-anonymize site visitors so you can just go prospect into them. I was at the Vena HQ with Hunter Madley, David Primer. It's funny enough, it was an Accord event, and Accord is one of our biggest competitors, and Ross Rich is a good friend of mine. Their entire team is. Um, and I'm a first-time director of sales. The entire team is CROs and VPs of sales. Now, I've never had any insecurities about my career or my place. I have my own things to stand on. Everybody in the room is going around. And the core topic was, okay, what are we all focused on? What are we focused on as core sales team? What's the biggest priority right now?
Right.
Almost every VP of sales, almost everybody was like, oh, we're focused on disqualifying fast to win fast. I'm like, I used to hear that 3, 4 years ago. And we're all still saying that. Haven't we seen some fundamental things go wrong in the last 2 years? And then it came my turn. And I said this, I'm like, guys, respectfully, I'm an outbound guy. You're all focused on disqualifying fast. Why are you focused on disqualifying fast? Why don't you just spend the same amount of energy on just things that are going to qualify? Maybe it's lesser volume, but it's probably going to convert equally as fast, or if not more. Like think about the energy that's going in disqualifying thing. Why don't you just set up? Why don't we just focus on now on setting up systems that we only talk to the right people, the right signals that are actually not going to make us do the work that we don't want to do. We always talk about give reps only revenue generating activities.
Right.
Disqualifying is not a revenue generating activity. You have to spend the exact same time to disqualify somebody as you do to qualify somebody to close a deal.
Yep.
Something fundamentally broken there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that no, that's a dichotomy right there. No, I'm a huge fan. I love the like the process of thought of like spend the most amount of time like with those deals that are going to convert, right? Like, and this is something I say all the time. Like, we as salespeople want to think like I closed that deal or I turned that person. Sales is so much more about timing than any of us care to admit. I mean,
Yeah,
it's probably over 50%, right? Is timing. But the thing is like you've got to put in the timing and you got to have the data to know who is the right timing for, right? Like, you catch that one company, to your point, that's looking at a competitor or their renewals up, right? It's like that's when you want to talk to them, right? Like, there's that 1 month of the year. If you talk to them, then you could get into an evaluation and you could get a deal. Probably the other 11 months out of the
yeah,
year, like they have another vendor, right? So I am
yeah.
all in on signal led sales. What are some of the most powerful signals you're seeing?
Uh, for me, the most important ones are three. First one is website visitors. We have technology now. I've deployed actually three tools to get me as close as possible to de-anonymized data. So that's the first one. Or just like I've created a system where uh I don't believe in demand. No. Um, it's a story here. When I was at Dooley, Michelle, my VP of sales, was like, Saad, your target is driving 10,000 trial signups. I was like, what? Give me a number. She's like, no, 10,000 signups. I was like, what the hell does that mean? How? And then I broke it down. I'm like, okay, what has to happen before signups? They have to go to my website. Why would somebody go to my website? It has to be compelling reason. So, okay, I don't have to solve for the 10,000 trial signups. I have to solve for driving traffic to the company website
Right.
for that. So all the content on LinkedIn, et cetera, stuff like that. So we do a lot right now as well. So we're creating so much organic content. We have like a full network of advisors and strategists and influencers posting for us. So it's my responsibility to capture all the traffic that all this noise is driving. So instead of going after Deloitte Fast 500 list, why don't I just go after the all the accounts and companies that are coming to my company website? Top of funnel is that for me. Second layer, mid funnel, is we're a PLG product. All the people that sign up, guys, by the way, if your PLG motion is your system's automatically sending them, hey, you use X amount of the product, go buy from us. Sorry, it's not gonna work. Um, I've changed. I fundamentally don't look at PLG that way. Fundamentally, for me, PLG signups are leads. I give all the PLG leads to my BDRs and my reps to go call what prompt your interest. They'll help you out. That has brought down our sales conversion time to 37% as it would traditionally.
Wow.
37% faster PLG signups are converting to close one revenue.
Wow.
So the second most important signal is my signups. The people that are literally coming to me and be like, hey, let us try your product. The fourth one is, if you think about it in a holistic way, the top of funnel is your website visitors, your social visitors, your deal champions changing. Mid funnel for me is my signups and lookalike companies for customers or signups and things like that. And the final signal is deal signals. So which is where Align comes in. Align helps you track risk and intent between mid-cycle drop-offs and things like that. So it's like a holistic way of thinking about signal-based selling from top of funnel to mid and then the end of. Um, and then you can manufacture ways to create more signals. So what you were saying earlier about just the accounts that are in seat or that might be relevant, if you just invest that strategy, you can find ways to create a lot more of those accounts. And then you have the best fit accounts that are 90% likely to close versus 20-30% where you have to put so much effort to get the probability up.
Right. Not only is that like effectiveness too, but I think what people don't realize is what that does to the psychology of your sales team, right? When
Very.
folks are working crap leads that aren't going to go anywhere, it's like soul sucking. And when you're
Yeah.
genuinely like working with buyers, right? Like you said, people that are signing up, people that are on your website, right? So like they have some sort of issue, whether you can solve it by selling to them or not, like you're consulting with them versus just like trying to drag someone across the finish line. And sure, you do it 1,000 times, right? You're gonna close a few of them, but like, what about like 100 of them? And to your point, you close maybe 90% of them, 80% of them,
Yeah.
right? And now your sales team is feeling good, and the floor is buzzing, and people are closing deals, and that's contagious. It's all these little things that just have a ripple effect across the entire organization.
Yeah. I'm seeing, look, the companies that are already past the 250 to 500 employee mark, they're gonna find it a little bit difficult right now to transition because it's kind of like they've done all these things that they were told in the past that are the right things to do, and they're so tightly weaved together that it's difficult for them to unravel. So unfortunately, they're kind of stuck right now.
Right.
But the companies that I'm seeing really adopt these models are either A, on the very start of the spectrum, because they missed out on the 2-3 years worth of like the golden hour of SaaS. So
Yeah.
they are like, hey, no, okay, we need to do this. Or there's the complete opposite end of the spectrum where I'm seeing some companies adopt these models, or maybe even just on a very basic level, do more community and social, is Zoom Info now. to compete with the likes of Apollo. They're building up marketing, community, things like that. So it's so interesting that
Yeah.
it's on the extreme end of the spectrum, and like the middle player is just like biding the time, waiting is kind of like still stuck. Um, and we still know that a seed to Series A or B product is going to win over some of the legacy softwares. And legacy, quote unquote, just if you were here 2 years ago and you're bigger or you're legacy now, but even the psychology with which how people are buying and looking at businesses and evaluating and what's providing the value, it's very I was with Scott Parker on a GTM Fun Talk. We were talking about just a signal-led sales motion, and he said this is outbound 5.0. I was like, huh, I was gonna say 2.0. You're right on five. He's like, yeah, there's every single time a recession happens, something like this happens, there is a shift. So, and I think this is gonna be a little bit of the talk of town over the next little bit.
I'm all in on signal led sales. I've got my two or three huge ones, and every single morning, the first thing I do is I check my right? Those are the first people I'm reaching out to,
Yeah.
right? Like strike when the iron is hot is like should be
Yes.
synonymous with
Yep.
signal led sales, right? Like that one little tiny window of time where they're going to be so easy to reach out to. They're going to want to hear from you. They're open to
Yes.
ideas, and maybe 98% of the other time it's probably like a no, not interested, right? Same
Yeah.
person, right time versus wrong time. So I
Yeah.
love this conversation thread. I could keep going on with this all day long. But Byron did a kick-ass job, and now he's at Aligned. So huge shout out to Byron. For our sellers that are listening, I hope folks got a lot out of that talk too. That was a little more like high level macro talk rather than like micro deal talk, which is fun. Like we like to do different topics here. What would be the one big takeaway that you would give to our sellers? Maybe not like macroeconomic wise, but what can our sellers take away from this episode as something that they can actually put into their daily work and improve on as sellers?
Yeah. It's actually something that sellers don't necessarily need to do. I think sellers need to now go ask their leaders for more. Um, hey, help us build a system so we can win more. Leaders need to invest their time into learning these things. Somebody asked me, Saad, what AI tools should we get for our reps to help them win more? Like, you need to go enable yourself more to have all these data points so that you can just provide your reps these data points, and all they have to do is just kick the ball in the back of the net.
Right.
All they have to do is the analogy that I use is uh, Pep Guardiola is one of the world's best football coaches. He's won the Champions League every club he's been at except for Bayern Munich, but he wins every single thing every single year. Plays a complete plays a style of football that's just everybody's trying to copy. It's very, very, very detail oriented, very technical. If you ask any of Pep's players, because the players that perform, not the manager,
Right.
what's it like playing for Pep? Why do you guys win so much? They say it's it's insane. They say it's very robotic but very liberating. They say Pep tells us exactly what zone to be, where to pass, even before before our opposition player makes a run, we know exactly where to be. It's kind of like we know how the game is going to play out.
Yeah.
So Pep tells us all of that, and all we have to do when we go to the game is kick the ball in the back of the net. So sellers, all your job is to just pick up the phone, and it's not an easy pick up the phone deal closed. But if you have a direction like Pep gives his players, then all you have to do is just use your skills to just, build some rapport, use your charisma, use your skills, and get those deals over the line, and just do a little bit of work to get, AKA, you can now go ask your leaders to create easier environments to win.
I love that. It reminds me of a lot of Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, where and there's an American football coach that has a similar thing. But like the point is like don't like burn so many brain cells doing the repeatable things, right? Like know
Yeah.
the things that you're doing each and every day, right? Like the players are so prepared, they have so much extra thought process, right? For like doing out of the ordinary things, right? Or for hey, like something doesn't seem right here. Let me go make a cut to make a soccer claim. So I love that. There are definitely parts of the sales process where you can do that, and parts where you need a little bit more ingenuity and you kind of want to like save your brain cells for, if you will. Dude, this has been great. How can people support you? Go ahead and plug away.
Yeah. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active. I every single thing that we've touched on, I've talked about it multiple times. I actively share playbooks, strategies, and things like that. I believe you become more powerful when you give things away. The things you give away, they become more powerful to you. They become better for you and for others as well. So, yeah, just follow me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a DM, whether it's about talking about building signal-led motions or like just all the things that I'm saying. I think a lot of times when salespeople give advice, it could come across like, okay, what does that mean? Right? Hit me up. I'll help you build these things out. And to actually was something you can go ask your seller, your leaders today is ask for two things. Tell them to give you two free tools. First one is Clearbit for free. Clearbit shows you all the companies on your website and what pages they look at. So you can just go add 5 people from that org and kind of use the website page visit as a trigger for your outreach. Second thing is go get a Warmly or RB2B. RB2B is free. It shows you site visitors on your website, de-anonymize and what pages they visited, and you can connect to Slack. So then look at this. Can I share my screen?
I
Can I
think you
leave?
should. I think you should be able to.
It's disabled. I'll leave the audience with something tactical. So I'll just, yeah.
I just updated it if you want to do it.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. So you can get wrong one.
First screen share ever on the show. We're just like doing it live.
Hey, here you go. So this is RB2B. It sends me directly contact name, the LinkedIn profile, what page they. Oh, okay. She's looking at a customer collaboration platform. All right, guys, this technology exists now. Why prospect random that I can just go find a way to prospect into them?
I love seeing the Slack mention too. Dude, love it. Folks, go connect with Saad on LinkedIn. He's talking about all of this stuff all the time. Go check out Aligned if you're interested in deal rooms, buying signals. Hit up Saad for playbooks on signal led buying. Saad, this is fantastic, man. So glad we got to do this. Sales
My
stories in real
pleasure.
life, fam. We will see you next week. Cheers.
Thank you.